Tonight, Senate approves electronic transmission of election results, but with conditions. As it passes Electoral Act Amendment Bill, House of Representatives adjourns decision till tomorrow following disagreement. Again, lawmakers in the lower chamber in disarray over equity allocation to host communities as Senate adopts 3% share in the petroleum industry bill, despite protests by lawmakers from the south. NAFDAC approves Moderna and Sputnik COVID-19 vaccines for use in the country. 40 million more doses expected between July and September 2021. And more than 40 people dead, with many more missing as flood ravages parts of Europe. We have business, sports, news from Abuja, and later international news from our studio in London. On business news tonight, Nigeria Export Promotion Council advocates use of e-commerce platforms to harness potentials of Africa Free Trade Agreement.
On sports news tonight, 26 Super Falcons players arrive in Vienna, Austria for an 8-day training camp in preparation for the Aisha Buhari Six Nation Invitational Football Tournament in Lagos.
And from Abuja, the President restates his administration's resolve to prioritize infrastructure development as he flags off the Kaduna-Kano Railway project.
The passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill in the National Assembly today hit stormy waters as lawmakers bickered over Clause 52, which guarantees electronic transmission of results. The Senate eventually passed the bill retaining electronic transmission of results, but with a caveat that the Independent National Electoral Commission may consider electronic transmission provided the national network coverage is adjudged to be adequate and secure by the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, and approved by the National Assembly. However, the House of Representatives is suspending the passage of the bill as a rowdy session hindered the exercise.
If you think we should retain what is here, you will vote yes. If you think what we have passed before the amendment of Senator Sabi, then you vote against this one. Is that clear?
Yeah, put the question.
Okay, I'll put the question. And the amendment, please, for the avoidance of doubt, for the avoidance of doubt, the way it is written here is the Commission may transmit results of elections by electronic means where and when practicable. This is the amendment. So if you don't want it, I will put the question now. Those in favor that Clause 52(3) as amended by Senator Basi Akpan, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The nays have it.
We'll bring you more on that top story a little later on. Meanwhile, Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal believes that the decision of the Senate to subject INEC's constitutional power to conduct elections to the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, and the National Assembly is patently unconstitutional. The governor, who is also a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, said in a statement which reads in part, "For the avoidance of doubt, Section 78 of the Constitution provides that the registration of voters and the conduct of elections shall be subject to the direction and supervision of the Independent National Electoral Commission, and that INEC has power to organize, undertake and supervise all elections, and that the Constitution further provides that INEC's operations shall not be subject to the direction of anyone or authority." He adds that the decision of the House of Representatives to call on INEC to address the House and nation on its readiness by 2023 to deploy electronic transmission technology for our elections seems to be a wise one, and he commends the leadership of the House for the decision. staying with the legislature, the House of Representatives has suspended the consideration of the Petroleum Industry Bill, which was harmonized by both chambers of the National Assembly. Last week, the lawmakers passed the bill with different figures allocated to host communities as operational costs. Amid a rowdy session, some lawmakers in the Green Chamber insisted on the 5%, which the House initially passed, as against 3% agreed upon by the Conference Committee. The PIB report was, however, considered and approved in the Senate despite opposition from Niger Delta senators.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. Nay! The nays have it. Yes, that's it. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Nay.
Honorable colleagues, we will be adjourning the House until tomorrow 10 a.m. The INEC chairman and NCC will be here to brief us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on section 52.
Now, the Petroleum Industry Bill report was, however, considered approved by the Senate despite opposition from Niger Delta senators.
And the Senator representing the Rivers East Central District. I want to say that I am not part of that vote. Our views on the conclusions we wanted to make on this issue could not be accommodated or were not accommodated. Now, on that day, as I said, we were firing them to shelter. Even when we are some of us were not conference report. We had a terrible evening, we could stay for a terrible evening. As a president, I and few of us will be unable to stay here and be part of this discussion.
I would appeal to all of us that at least when the Senate takes a resolution, no matter how uncomfortable it is the resolution of the Senate. And at this point, we are not going to be getting what happened before. Our people, the people who represent here, definitely sometimes do not understand the kind of role we play. I just think all these things. And I want to ask you, and if there is any other discerning senator who is thinking the same way, that this is the way the Congress works. And I will appeal to you not to live like I did before. Because there are other things that you need to participate. There was a lot of motion that the Senate do this because the Senate of Congress committee said there was a message in the
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Governors Forum is supporting the unbundling and commercialization of the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation as prescribed in the Petroleum Industry Bill, but faults the part of the legislation that places its ownership on the federal government. In a communique issued by Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State at the end of its virtual meeting, the governors backed the recommendation for the proposed National Petroleum Corporation Limited. The forum says the new entity that will emerge following the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill should be managed by Nigeria's Sovereign Investment Authority on behalf of the three tiers of government.
Governors from the 36 states of the Federation continue to hold their monthly meeting virtually since the outbreak of COVID-19. This is the 32nd teleconference, and the governors are discussing several issues, including the Petroleum Industry Bill that has just been passed by the National Assembly. In a statement signed by the chairman of the Governors Forum after their meeting, The governors expressed concern over the ownership structure of the NNPC, as they want the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority to manage the interest of the three tiers of government. Apart from the PIB, the governors also deliberated on issues including the 2021 NIPOST Stamp Duty Collection Bill, the proposed sale of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, as well as the template for implementation of the Executive Order 10, which grants financial autonomy to states, judiciary and legislatures. The judiciary and parliamentary workers across the country had protested and embarked on a nationwide strike over the non-implementation of the order by most state governments. On the proposed sale of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, the governor said that due consultation was not carried out before it was listed for privatization by the Bureau of Public Enterprises. However, the governors resolved to take a position on the matter in future meetings. Beyond these resolutions, the governors also took presentations from heads of government parastatals and asked members to reactivate their COVID-19 safety protocols in the face of rising cases in Lagos and some other states.
The National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has approved 2 more COVID-19 vaccines, Moderna and Sputnik V, for use in the country. The Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, who announced this at a news conference in Abuja, says the approval is for emergency use. Although Russia's Sputnik V vaccine has not been approved yet by the World Health Organization, the NAFDAC boss says the agency has carried out independent safety checks on the vaccines and found out that the benefits far outweighs the risks. She promises to carry out further post-administration studies to record the effect.
NAFDAC is announcing the approval of Moderna and AstraZeneca vaccines and the approval of Sputnik V vaccine. Moderna and AstraZeneca that we are approving now, the AstraZeneca we are approving now is from Korea because India has stopped sending anything out because they need it for their people. These 2 vaccines have received WHO emergency use listing and were given expedited approvals. Sputnik V is yet to receive the emergency use listing approval, and therefore we subjected it to full 6 months review by NAFDAC. The product has a shelf life of 6 months when stored at -18 degrees centigrade, or 3 months when stored at 2 to -8 degrees centigrade. The agency did a thorough assessment for each vaccine and were found to have the quality, safety, and efficacy attributes, with the benefits far outweighing the risks.
In part 2, after the break, 40 million more doses of different vaccines are expected between July and September 2021. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Senate approves electronic transmission of election results, but with conditions as it passes Electoral Act Amendment Bill. House of Representatives adjourns decision till tomorrow following disagreement. Again, lawmakers in the lower chamber in disarray over equity allocation to host communities as Senate adopts 3% share in the Petroleum Industry Bill, despite protests by lawmakers from the south. NAFDAC approves Moderna and Sputnik COVID-19 vaccines for use in the country. 40 million more doses expected between July and September 2021. And more than 40 people dead, with many more missing as flood ravages parts of Europe. We continue with stories on the coronavirus update, as the federal government has said it will be receiving over 40 million vaccines between July and September 2021, including the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. At a town hall meeting in Lagos to discuss the COVID-19 control effort and how to win the battle against the pandemic, the executive director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency said the town hall is a proactive community engagement to educate the people on the need to get vaccinated and stay safe.
We're expecting a total of about 12 million doses of different vaccines between the end of July and early August. And then by September, we're expecting about 30 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So the first consignment, if you recall, came in March. It was the AstraZeneca vaccine, about 4 million doses. In the next few weeks, we expect to get the Moderna vaccine, the Pfizer-BioNTech, and then additional doses of the AstraZeneca. So for the Moderna vaccine, we're expecting about 4,080,000 doses of Moderna vaccine, which are donations from the United States government, but it's coming through the COVAX facility. Then through the COVAX facility as well, we're expecting about 3.9 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. And then we also expect that we will get a little over 4 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Again, we're expectant that we'll begin to receive these vaccines by the end of July to early August.
A new directive from the University of Lagos has asked students to vacate their halls of residence by tomorrow, Friday, 16th July. The deadline was extended when authorities noticed that it would be too much of an inconvenience for the students to empty the halls at such short notice. Students were asked to leave the hostels when the institution's medical center reported the discovery of several cases of COVID-19 coming in with complaints of flu-like symptoms. Our correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf reports.
University of Lagos Akoka campus, after students were told to vacate the hostels following the discovery of many cases of COVID-19 among them. Tempers flare. Confusion reigns as students scamper to leave the campus before the noon deadline. They feel the situation could be handled with more consideration for their welfare.
I feel like the whole thing is just very impromptu. They didn't tell us early, number one. It's just yesterday they told us that we have to start moving till 12 today. And I feel like they should have even told us to go home from the moment they found the first case. It's now yesterday that they were just doing their meeting and chasing everybody home. It's so frustrating because now people have to be paying like 11,000 naira to go home.
Most of my classmates stay in Nasarawa, Kano. How do they want them to live at this under 16 hours?
The hostels are really crowded, so I feel closing down the school is the best decision, and online schooling. But the problem I have, the fear I have is that they are not going to use a good site for our exams, because last lockdown we had issues. Most people were locked out during their tests and exams and they could not take the exam again.
The Dean of Students' Affairs never imagined it would come to this.
Over the next 3 weeks, we started getting an increased number of students testing positive for COVID. By the 12th of July, we had about 28 students confirmed. We also had staff that also come down with COVID.
He claims that students flouted COVID-19 safety protocols, even though every precaution was taken.
So students were not actually obeying the COVID protocols. Literally under compulsion. Once they got out of the hostel, they removed the mask. You see them walking all over the campus without masks, without social distancing. We insisted that there should be no squatting in the hostels. But they did everything they could to smuggle themselves into the hostels.
The school authorities have extended the deadline for departure by 24 hours to make things easier for the students.
For now, closure of the hostels is for an indefinite period of time. But authorities hope that in September, when a new batch of vaccines is likely to arrive, then students can be called back, vaccinated, and start physical learning. Until then, it's distance learning for them. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
The Vice President, Professor Emir Shibajo, has presided over the 118th National Economic Council meeting, where council members called for strict adherence to the COVID-19 response guidelines across the country. This follows a report from the NCDC that the virus positivity rate has gone up in the country as 3 cases of the Delta variant has been identified. The virtual meeting, which was held at the State House in Abuja, started at 11 a.m. today and had in attendance governors from the 36 states and certain cabinet ministers. The council also confirmed receipt of NSAR's reports from only Ekiti, Enugu and Nasarawa states, while council received updates on the federal government's budget support facility to states and were informed that the central bank will be providing a bridge facility to the states and deductions from state governments will now begin in July 2021. And let's take you back to our top story today, the passage of the Electoral Amendments Bill in the National Assembly, which hit stormy waters with lawmakers bickering over the clause 52. Let's take a look.
They saved the most critical decision for last, the amendment of the Electoral Act. The National Assembly had intended to pass this bill on the final day of plenary before it proceeds on its annual recess. Days before the passage, reports swept the country of plans to expunge a clause from the bill which guarantees electronic transmission of results, a critical aspect of elections. The Senate begins the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill. It gets to clause 52, which gives the Electoral Commission the discretion to introduce electronic voting as may be practicable. Senator Aliyu Abdullahi seeks an amendment to this clause.
The Commission may consider electronic transmission of results provided the national coverage is adjudged to be adequate and secure by the National Communication Commission (NCC) and approved by the National Assembly.
But another lawmaker, Senator Albert Bassi, wants the clause in the committee's report retained.
That the Commission may transmit the result by electronic means, where and when practicable.
The Senate President rules.
Clause 52(3), as amended by Senator Bassi Akpan. Say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
Tension builds in the chamber as lawmakers are divided between the amendments. The Senate President tries to maintain order. Unable to do so, the Senate then goes into a closed-door session. The executive session ends and the minority leader calls for a division.
Mr. President, I still insist. We want Nigerians to know who has voted or not.
The vote begins, and it's obvious that lawmakers are voting along party lines.
Mohamed Ali Ndume, I categorically vote no against the amendment by distinguished Senator Albert.
Therefore, vote yes to electronic transmission of results, because that is what Nigerians want.
I vote no, just to allow INEC to do the best job for Nigeria. Thank you.
Mr. President, I stand on the side of the people, of Nigerians. I vote yes.
The votes are counted.
28 voted yes, those that supported the amendment. 52 senators voted no, they don't want the amendment. 28 of our colleagues, senators, are absent in different parts of the country doing some jobs for the Senate and the National Assembly. Nobody abstained. Total 108.
The Senate concludes the clause-by-clause amendment and passes the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Meanwhile, in the House of Representatives, the Deputy Speaker, Idris Wase, rules against electronic transmission of results, despite a resounding vote in favor of electronic transmission.
My amendment is to the effect that transmission of results under this bill, under the election, shall be by electronic transmission.
Today in Nigeria, I don't know the coverage of the broadband. Have we been able to cover all parts of the federation that we now want to put it? Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it.
His ruling causes a rowdy session which lasts at least 15 minutes. A call by the leader of the PDP caucus for division is ignored and a new amendment is proposed.
Transmission of results under this bill shall be both manual and electronic. I didn't put voting, I said transmission.
And for a second time, despite a resounding vote in favor of the amendment, the Deputy Speaker rules against the ayes, leading to another rowdy session.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. Nay! The ayes have it.
The rowdy session lingers and the House suspends consideration of the electoral bill and reverts to plenary.
2010 and enact the Electoral Act 2021 to regulate the conduct of elections in the federal, state and area councils in the Federal Capital Territory and for legal matters. Approve clauses 1 to as amended.
While reporting progress, the Deputy Speaker states that the controversial Clause 52 has been considered and approved, but some lawmakers insist that that is not the case, and this leads to yet another rowdy session.
36 as amended, 37 as amended, 38 to 48, 49 as amended, 50 to 54, and the
And it gets even worse as lawmakers come close to exchanging blows. The Speaker takes over plenary and adjourns sitting while reacting to the controversial Clause 52, which the Deputy Speaker claims to have considered.
We will be adjourning the House until tomorrow 10 a.m. We will have the INEC chairman and NCC. We will have the INEC chairman and NCC to brief us. The INEC chairman and NCC will be here to brief us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on Section 52.
As plenary ends, the anger rages as a fight ensues. Lawmakers in the Green Chamber will now have to push forward their annual recess until the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is concluded.
When the news at 10 returns, President Muhammadu Buhari flags off Kaduna-Kano rail line project. Please join us again. Welcome back. Armed robbers have attacked a commercial bank this afternoon in Ifedore local government area of Ondo State. The spokesperson of the Ondo State Police Command said 3 persons, including a police officer, were shot and killed in the attack. He, however, did not confirm if the robbers succeeded in carting away money from the bank, but said normalcy has since returned to the area. And the fight against insurgency may receive a boost as the first batch of 6 A-29 Super Tucano aircraft have departed the United States of America on Wednesday to Nigeria. According to the Nigerian Air Force, the 6 aircrafts will fly through 5 countries, including Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Spain and Algeria, before arriving Nigeria by the end of July 2021. The authorities are already planning an official induction ceremony of the aircrafts into the inventory of the Nigerian Air Force in August 2021. And for more stories, let's take you to Gloria Mozoke, who has more stories from Abuja studios. Hi, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. Good to see you. The president has flagged off the construction of the Kano-Kaduna railway project in Zawanchiki-Kumbotso local government area of Kano State. The flag-off had the Minister of Transportation, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, and Governor Abdullahi Ganduje, amongst other dignitaries. The project, which is in segments, will serve as an important passenger transportation corridor to connect main cities in northern Nigeria with the southern part of the country. It is also part of the West African sub-regional railway network, which 15 ECOWAS states are committed to.
The president is in Kano on a special visit. It's the groundbreaking ceremony of Kano-Kaduna segment of the Lagos to Kano Railway Modernization Project in the Zawachiki area of Kano State. The project covers a 203-kilometer double-track standard gauge railway traversing major cities of Kaduna, Zaria, and Kano. President Muhammadu Buhari reiterates his administration's commitment to railway transportation.
The takeoff of construction activities on this segment of the Lagos-Kano vividly represents the commitment of this administration in the revival of the Nigerian railway system to reduce the deficiency in our transportation infrastructure and drive effective and more efficient transportation of passengers and freight within the country.
On the inland dry port situated on the Kano to Kaduna route, President Buhari says it's part of efforts to aid international trade.
The railway line will be linked to the second port in Lagos, the Tinkan Island port. It is also expected that the inland dry port on these routes will be activated and the ports can now receive imports directly from the international market as ports of destination such as Ibadan, Kaduna, and Kano inland dry ports.
The Minister of Transportation, Chibike Amechi, talks up the advantages of the project.
This railway line will present an opportunity for Nigerians to traverse between Abuja and Kano via Kaduna with relative ease. The project will no doubt improve the standard of living of citizens within this corridor, create employment, and this was the directive the President gave me a month ago when I told him that we want to start Kano-Kaduna. He said to me, Mr. Minister, make sure you create employment. And I'm glad to inform you that we will not employ anything less than 20,000 workers on this route.
The leader of the beneficiary state thanks the federal government and praises its drive toward infrastructure development.
On behalf of the people and government of Kano State, permit me to express my warm welcome to the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari. I also congratulate the entire people of Kano State on the groundbreaking of the Nigeria Railway Modernization Project, third segment, that is Kano to Kaduna.
In spite of the rain, President Buhari inaugurates the Dengue interchange in the Kano metropolis.
The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, has refuted widespread data claiming that Nigeria has 17 million housing deficit, maintaining that no such deficit exists anywhere in the world. Mr. Fashola was speaking during the weekly ministerial briefing organized by Presidential Communications Team at the State House. The minister insists that an unofficial census must be conducted to give a definitive response to Nigeria's housing deficit, adding that Nigeria, a country with significant number of empty houses, particularly in the urban areas, cannot be said to hold such a figure. According to the minister, the World Bank, AFDB, and the NBS could not ascertain the source of the said data.
A housing crisis, and this is the subject of a full discussion itself, and I think we all need to learn the same things so that our understanding and our discussions can be more fruitful. My sense is that the housing shortages that exist in essentially all parts of the world are in the urban centers, not in the rural areas. So it is a problem that has come as a result of urbanization, where people move from rural to urban centers, and then it creates a supply and demand problem. And so those numbers that have been bandied around, we have 17 million deficit, is a lie. I found the source of it. It was in a document in our ministry that it was written, and I've asked the author, and they said there was no verification, there was no basis, there was no data to support it. So stop repeating it, because it's not true. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we need to get it right. But first of all, is that we have proven that the earlier figure is not data-based, so it's not a figure upon which to plan. The figures upon which to plan lie in what we can see: empty houses against demand in urban centers, whilst we gather more data.
The Ogun State Governor, Mr. Dapo Abiodun, has called for an urgent intervention from the federal government to address the deplorable nature of federal roads in the state. He made the call while on a working visit to Adota local government area of the state, while addressing residents during the ongoing local government campaign in readiness for the forthcoming local government election.
I'm hoping that the Minister of Works will agree to come on a tour with me so we can look at these roads. He can get a first-hand appreciation of the state, the deplorable states of this road infrastructure. I want to continue to plead with our people to exercise more patience. This particular road, I have directed the Commissioner of Works to come and intervene here immediately, because this is just completely unacceptable. We don't have federal Nigerians. They are not federal Nigerians. Everybody is a citizen of a particular state. So they don't care whether a road is federal or state road. So we are going to take responsibility. This portion, we are going to rehabilitate it. We are going to go to the Abeokuta Songo Road as well. Just before the bridge, we are going to go and repair that as well. Because the rains are going to get more, and it's going to cause more and more inconvenience to our innocent Ogun State indigents.
A Federal Capital Territory High Court has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission not to publish the name of any candidate as the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, pending the hearing and determination of a motion on notice. One of the participants in the election, Mr. Vincent Ozigbo, had approached the court seeking an interim order mandating INEC to publish his name as the PDP governorship candidate for the November 6th election. Presiding Judge Justice Yusuf Halilu dismissed the application and adjourned hearing in the matter to July 22nd, 2021. And that's all from the nation's capital. It's over now to Anne Wawodo in Lagos for business news.
Thank you, Gloria. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Mr. Olusegun Awolowo, is canvassing the adoption of electronic platforms to boost trade in the West African sub-region. Speaking at the first meeting of the ECOWAS Trade Promotion Organization in the nation's capital, Abuja, Mr. Awolowo explains that the move will assist Nigeria and other countries in ECOWAS to tap into the potentials presented by the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement to grow the economy of Africa.
The group photo.
Since the commencement of the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement in January, several African countries have been meeting to deliberate on ways to improve their trade potentials. Members of the Economic Community of West Africa are by no means left out of such deliberations, which presents an opportunity to tap into the $3 trillion potential of the region. Here, technology is considered a critical aspect to boost trade.
We need to take advantage of the opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AFTA, which is the largest global free trade area in the world with a market of 1.3 billion people and a combined GDP of some $3 trillion. This presents a unique opportunity for our MSMEs to take advantage of most especially engaging in borderless trade through e-commerce and m-commerce digital platforms. Visa predicts e-commerce in sub-Saharan Africa to reach $7 trillion by 2024.
Representatives from the ECOWAS and the European Union see great potentials in the trade agreement, which is expected to serve as a catalyst for job creation. The challenge is having a conducive business environment for businesses and investments to thrive.
It is particularly important that the program enlists cooperation from both public and private stakeholders. It supports the ECOWAS and UEMOA Commission in furthering implementation of the regional, industrial and SME strategy. It works with the national authorities to improve the environment for business and investment, and it works with the market participants themselves to enhance their business acumen.
The adoption of sound economic policies and the provision of infrastructure remains key to achieving both regional and intra-Africa trade. Hopefully, this new drive to reposition ECOWAS will receive the attention it deserves from governments across the sub-region.
The Petroleum Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, says that it expects world oil demand to rise to 99.86 million barrels per day in the year 2022. According to its monthly oil market report released today, OPEC says the robust increase, which is similar to the level reached in the pandemic year of 2019, would be led by growth in the United States, China and India. The data comes as OPEC, Russia and several other allies are still trying to clinch a deal to collectively raise production by 400,000 barrels per day each month through the end of 2021. And let's head to the domestic stock market, which ended today's trading session with mixed performance as the all-share index closed nearly flat today amid positive price chart and lower volume of transaction. Ini John Mekwa has the details.
Hello and welcome to the stock market report. The market has taken 0.01% off its overall gain of yesterday by the close of trading today. It lost about 3 billion naira from the total value of listed equities, much less than 8 billion naira it gained yesterday. This has, however, brought the bear back to the floor of the NGX. On the activity chart, deals dipped at just about 3,000. Volume value dipped even further compared to Wednesday's trading. Analysts say that a lot of investors are staying on the sideline, just monitoring the FX situation before making major decisions. Now, let's see how the counters fared today. Banking was up 0.67%. Consumers goods was down 0.72%. Industrial was up. After 2 sessions of recording no movement at all, industrial ended positive today, up 0.04%. Oil and gas was the highest gainer. It added 0.83%. Now, at the close of trading, 18 tickets gained while 15 lost. A positive market breadth. That's the stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawodo. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. Germans in the city of Ruhr are being told by authorities to boil their drinking water because of issues of filtration due to raging floods that have hit western parts of the country, killing at least 43 people, with the figure expected to rise. Meanwhile, the Belgian government has placed an overnight curfew in the city of Verviers to curb looting. Switzerland is putting up flood barriers to control levels of flooding, and 9 regions of France have been put under an orange weather alert as residents are urged to be very vigilant because of the risk of flooding. Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The South African government plans to deploy 25,000 troops after days of widespread looting and violence. Some 72 people have died and over 1,700 have been arrested since the jailing of the former President Jacob Zuma sparked the country's worst unrest in years. Hundreds of shops and businesses have been looted, and the government says it is acting to prevent food shortages. Citizens are arming themselves and forming vigilante groups to protect their property from the rampage. Some 208 incidents of looting and vandalism were recorded on Wednesday, as the number of troops deployed doubled to 5,000. Growing numbers of troops are reported to be mobilizing across Ethiopia to join the fight against Tigrayan rebels in the north of the country. This could signal that the conflict might be taking a new shape, with the involvement of forces from other regions. Local media say forces are rallying from the Oromia, Sidama and southern nations. It comes amid calls by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for the public to show support for the army and the government. The Afghan government says the Taliban have proposed a 3-month ceasefire in Afghanistan in return for the release of 7,000 captured fighters. Clashes between the government and the Taliban have intensified since US troops began to withdraw from the country. The Taliban recently claimed their fighters had retaken 85% of territory in the country. An Afghan government negotiator described the proposal as a big demand. The government has so far not said how it will react. Haitian police say they are in hot pursuit of the masterminds in connection with the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. Police said at a news conference that 24 police officers have been subjected to precautionary measures and 4 were in isolation as part of the investigation. National Police Chief Leon Charles identified former Haitian Senator John Joel Joseph as a key player in the plot and pointed a finger at a company as being responsible for the operation's funding. Cuba has temporarily lifted import duties on food, medicine and other essentials following recent unrest. As of next Monday, there will be no limit on such goods brought in by travellers until the end of the year. Thousands of people took to the streets on Sunday in protests over food and medicine shortages, price increases and the government's handling of COVID-19. Dozens have been arrested nationwide since the unrest began. Authorities confirmed that 1 man has died.
People cried out, "Down with President Diaz-Canel, down with communism, freedom for the people of Cuba. We want medicine, we want food." That is what the people cried out.
Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro may need emergency surgery after suffering persistent hiccups for 10 days. He is being transferred to a hospital in Sao Paulo to undergo tests for an obstructed intestine. In a tweet, Mr. Bolsonaro said he would be back soon, God willing. There have been concerns about the far-right leader's health since he was stabbed in the intestine while campaigning in 2018. Mr. Bolsonaro was seriously wounded in the attack and lost 40% of his blood. And finally, taking advantage of record warm temperatures and the midnight sun, people in Finland have enjoyed a midnight swim in downtown Helsinki on Wednesday night. According to the local weather forecaster, the night between Wednesday and Thursday was the hottest since records began, reaching a nighttime temperature of over 24 degrees. Finland is currently experiencing a heat wave, with June being the warmest month in recorded history. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. 26 players of Nigeria's Super Falcons have arrived in Vienna, Austria for an 8-day training camp as part of intense preparation for some upcoming challenges, most importantly the Aisha Buhari Invitational Women's Football Tournament. Lagos is scheduled to host the Six Nation Invitational in September, with the continent's women football heavyweights that includes Ghana's Black Queens, Cameroon's Indomitable Lionesses, the Banyana Banyana of South Africa, Morocco and Mali competing for a glittering trophy named in honor of Nigeria's First Lady, Mrs. Aisha Buhari. The Appeals Committee of the Nigeria Football Federation has fined Remo Stars Football Club of Ikenne the sum of 1.3 million naira for various breaches of the rule book of the Nigeria National League in a Week 21 clash against Bendel Insurance in Ikenne, Ogun State on June the 6th. The barrister Ibrahim Mark-led Appeals Committee, following today's sitting, ruled Remo are to pay the sum of 200,000 naira as damages to the camera and phones belonging to the officials of Bendel Insurance, and another 500,000 naira as cost implication of injuries suffered by insurance players and officials. Britain's Tyson Fury has tested positive for COVID-19, and his heavyweight boxing title showdown with Deontay Wilder has been postponed from July the 24th to October the 9th. The bout for Fury's World Boxing Council crown will still be fought at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And that's sports news.
And the main news again. The Senate has approved electronic transmission of election results, but with conditions, as it passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives adjourned decision till tomorrow following disagreement. That's news at 10 to 9. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night. Stay safe.